Hey guys, and welcome to a vlog this week, which I didn't expect to kind of pick up the camera and vlog, but I feel like I kind of wanted to. And the other day I picked up my new car and I received a message on Instagram that was like, I could have swore you got like a new car like a month ago, like what's happened, asking me a few questions. And so that made me think that when I passed my test like literally a year ago, I did a video about my experience learning to drive, and that literally seemed to do so well because it's so good to hear other people's experiences, especially when it's something that you've never done before. So I thought I would basically follow on that video for like a 1 year sum up. My hand is literally really hurting today, I don't know what I've done. So I thought I'd do like a 1 year sum up, and that's literally just because, like I said, I've got a new car. And so I thought I'd talk about like my experience of driving the past year, what has happened because it's not been easy. You know, I've had a car crash, so many things have like happened that I didn't expect to happen in the first year passing my test. I thought that the worst bit and the most expensive bit was learning to drive, and then I thought it was as easy as buying a car, and I expected to have that for like 5 years or whenever it stopped working. But a year on, I'm on my third car. So I thought I'd give it a bit of context because obviously through Instagram or Twitter, you don't understand everything that's happened. I mean, I've obviously not explained it, so it's a bit like, oh, you've got another car, and it's a bit like, yeah. So I just thought I'd literally just explain it in a bit of a sit down chatty video because it's quite interesting, and like I said, I got a couple of questions about it, so I just thought I'd just talk about what has happened. So on the 24th of January 2017, I passed my driving test, and I explained a lot more about kind of how I found that in a video before, so I'll link that above for anyone that's curious to actually see like what it was like learning to drive, because I literally share everything. I sit down and I'm so honest about it because I didn't know what to expect, so I always found a lot of videos like that were helpful. So a year on, obviously, like I said, I'm on my third car, so I'd give this a little bit of context. So the first car I bought, it was like an old 53 plate Citroen C3. It was a horrible green colour. It looked like a granddad car, but I was so proud of it. Like, I loved that car. I bought it for £800, and it was just like an old runabout car. The old owners were like quite old, so they didn't really use it that much, and it had done like so little mileage considering the price and the age. So I work like 45 minutes away from where I live, so it's obviously like having a car was a necessity. So as soon as I passed my test, it was a priority for me to get a car, so I literally went with that kind of old banger style thing. Absolutely fine. Like I said, I really liked it because the Citroen was quite tall off the ground. I really like kind of bigger cars, and obviously it's not like lavish or anything, but it got me from A to B, and it was my first car and I loved it so much. So fast forward like 3 months, someone crashes in the back of me. I was driving back home from work, and there's a little junction where I come out of the town that I work, and basically it like you could see there was traffic all the way up the hill. I was going about 5 miles an hour to coincide with the people like in front of me. Obviously everyone was going really slow. Person behind me wasn't. Obviously I think that they were checking their phone, but we never actually found out why he crashed into me. But he went straight into the back of me. I went like back forward because my car got pushed in the car in front, so the back of my car was like smashed into, the front of it was. And I mean, to be honest, like 3 months after passing my driving test, that freaked me out. I got whiplash from it. I was more scared than anything because I didn't know what to do in that situation. I was just so lucky that despite the fact it was like rush hour and, you know, people were very keen to get home from work, some guy came out and helped me. He made sure that I was okay, told me what I needed to get from the other driver, you know, all the insurance details, number plate, contact number, and signed a piece of paper that confirmed that he declared it was his fault. So I had all of that, but I didn't know in that situation what to do, because like you don't learn in your driving test like what happens when you have a crash. So the best thing that I took from that is that I know if it were to happen again, I was on my own, I had to deal with the situation, is first of all get your car to a safe place, take photos of any damage your car in front, or the car that went in like behind you, or whatever the situation is, like get photos. Not only that, but also like get something that says that they accept liability. Like if they say, oh my god, I'm so sorry, it's my fault, in that moment write down something and get them to sign it. Because I was so lucky that the guy accepted liability and was like, I'm so sorry, it was my fault, rang his insurance there and then, and it was quite a smooth process for me. But I also know people that, you know, they drive off, or they say, oh no, it wasn't my fault, they went into me, and yeah, it could have been really messy. So thank goodness he accepted liability. So basically after that, I got in contact with, well, his insurance called me, because obviously he had accepted liability, so they would have to pay for either my car to be fixed, or they would write off the car and give me a cash settlement. So based on the fact that it was a 2003 car, it was obviously old, and the damage was quite substantial. There was damage to the back, damage to the front. Not only that, it felt like power steering had been ruined, knocked off, or however, I don't really know the terminology, but to drive, it obviously, there was a lot of internal problems, not just external, like the way it looked. So after speaking with their insurance company, it was decided that it wasn't worth fixing the car, because it was obviously quite an old car. By the time they paid for the repairs, it would have been cheaper for them to write off the car and give me basically cash. So that's what we decided to do. And I was actually very lucky, because when they said it was like being scrapped or written off, I just had in my mind I'd get like £200 for the car, because, you know, it had no value. It was really old, and yeah, it wouldn't have had much value. So I was expecting like £200, but I actually got £1,200, which was more than I paid for the car, which is bizarre. I didn't expect that. So that was actually really nice, because it just opened up to our options for the next car, because obviously I need it for work and I really needed a car so bad. So obviously the first car was written off, and for 2 weeks after that, his insurance company provided me a hire car so I could get about, because obviously I explained that I work quite far away and I heavily rely on a car. Not only that, if I have meetings with clients and things, like I kind of need it. So I had a hire car for 2 weeks, which was so nice. It was a Fiat 500 and it was so good to drive. Like, that was so much fun, because I literally love Fiat 500s. So I had one of those for 2 weeks, but obviously that didn't last. And then we decided to get a Peugeot 207, and that car cost us £1,600. So we used the £1,200 that I got for the old car and paid the rest, because this was slightly newer. It was 2008, so we kind of thought obviously it would be more reliable. It was like a sporty car as well, so it had a bit more acceleration to it, because obviously the Citroen C3 didn't have a lot of like revs to it. It wasn't a very fast car. So the Peugeot was a 1.6 litre, and yeah, it was like, when we first got it, we loved it. It was so good. You know, I really noticed a difference with the speed of the car. It actually made me feel safer to drive, because I felt like in situations like on a roundabout, whether you don't know whether to go or not, if you do go, it kicks up enough acceleration right at the beginning that you don't feel endangered. So I really liked it. The only thing I didn't like about the car at the time was it was really like low to the ground. So in Devon, if ever you've driven on Devon roads, it's like pothole central, and you're constantly like dipping in and out of like potholes and just uneven road surfaces, and it's a bit of a nightmare. So that was the only thing I didn't like, but I obviously was happy that we had a new car. And yeah, obviously to drive it was a little bit better because it was slightly newer, so you know, like the clutch felt better and things like that. So that was our second car. And fast forward about, when did we get that? I think we got that end of May, June time. I think it was around then. So fast forward then to end of November, we had the engine light came on the Peugeot. We had a full message that come up saying faulty anti-pollution. So after googling it, because obviously that's the first thing you do, apparently it was really common for this type of car, and people kind of just explained it's a bit of a nightmare. So from there we obviously decided to take it to a garage. I was concerned that an engine light had come on the car, and I have to commute 25 miles each way to work, so I was just frightened that going through like a link road that's got a 60-mile-an-hour limit, that if something happened to the car, it's not the best situation to be in, because if something happens, either you have to pull over, people going so much faster, if something happens you don't have a lot of like time to get out of a situation. So I'd obviously explained to Richie I was a bit worried about it, but so we took it to a garage. In fact, the first garage I called, that would have been my garage of choice, I called them and told them what car we had, and they said, we're not touching that car, it's a problem car. And I was like, brilliant, you're at a garage and you're not taking my car. Like, that already like basically really pissed me off. We then called another garage and they said no problem. They took it, they did the MOT then as well, because the MOT was due in December. So we said, well, it's worth doing the MOT, because if it needed too much work, then we wouldn't have done it. But it passed its MOT with no advisories, and we were told that the anti-pollution light was due to a faulty water sensor thing. I'm not too sure what it was. And that cost us about £300 to fix. And we were told that was the problem done. Then fast forward a week later, the light comes back on, the same fault, so we take it back in because we say, like, you know, you said that you'd fixed it and it hasn't been fixed, so what do we do? And then they were like, oh, I don't know, like one of your spark plugs in the engine have gone, so we'll need to replace them, that's going to cost you £90. And we're like, already we were like questioning it, because it's like, if that was a problem, surely you would have seen that. But we said fine, like, we'll pay that, and then hopefully that'll be the end of it. And then again, like 2 days after, the light comes back on, same fault message. So we just had got really annoyed by the garage, because we didn't feel like they were fixing the issue. We just felt like they were trying to fix anything that would get it off temporarily, but didn't know if it would then come back on. So we got a second opinion about it, and Rich's dad is friends with like a mechanic guy who's quite like renowned in the area, and apparently he's like really, really good. So we asked him to take a look at the car to get an idea of whether, like, what he thinks, because if he were to have said to fix the problem would cost you £800, but you know the car will then be good to go for like the next couple of years, we would have obviously have done it. But he looked at the car and basically said to us, your car is totally fucked, like, don't put any more money into this car, because there's so much wrong with it that the problem is, as soon as you start fixing one thing, you need to fix another. It's a bit of a domino effect, and it's going to cost you so much more than the car's worth. So he was like, there's no point. So we were like, oh, brilliant. That we had this car less than a year, and we were then stuck in limbo of what we do. Do we keep hold of this car until it literally breaks down? Or do we get another car? And then obviously, if we get another car, what if it's another private car that has so many problems? Because at the end of the day, you never know when you buy a car. So that was our worry. So we had it for a couple of weeks over Christmas. Obviously, at Christmas, we're in no state to actually think about buying a new car because it's expensive. And obviously, you know, we just felt like we didn't know what to do because we'd had such a bad experience. So we were chatting away, and I know someone at work that basically got their car through finance. This was not something I really wanted to do at the time. However, when you think about it, like, our problem is that we've had 2 cars in the space of a year. If you think about how much money they all cost us, like, it starts adding up, and you just think, you know, you don't know, like, what could happen. So we went to a Ford garage in January, like just a couple of weeks after Christmas. We went in and we basically said to them, like, this is our situation, we don't really know what to do, we've come in here for a bit of advice, and then we could see our options and then we'll go from there. So we sat down with them, and they basically said at the moment there is a scrappage scheme where if we want to get rid of our old car, they'll give us £2,000 towards the cost of a brand new car. So we were like, oh my god, a brand new car, like, we'd only passed our test like a year ago. And so we were looking at used and approved ones that they had, and the difference between a used and approved car and a brand new, like, 67 plate car was like £30 a month. It was silly, like, it didn't make sense. So we were like, okay, like, it just sounded so good. So we got a really good deal, and we've got a brand new Ford Fiesta, which I love. It's so nice. Rich let me get it in the white colour, so we have this white Ford Fiesta. It's so good. It's so lovely inside. It's got like a screen. It's an ST line, so it's got EcoBoost, so even though it's a smaller engine, it's still got a lot of acceleration because it's got that built-in boost system. You've got eco mode on it, so it drives obviously a lot more economically, which is great for me if I do long journeys. And yeah, it just seemed like such a good option. Obviously for us, having to buy a third car in a year is not ideal, but to think of how much money we've thrown into cars this year alone, it's like literally cost us the earth. So we're thinking with this, it's better. We have a warranty on the car, so if a light comes on, we can take it in. They'll fix it because it's under a warranty. You obviously don't have to MOT a brand new car for 3 years, so we've got it MOT for 3 years. The contract itself is just longer than 3 years, but he kind of said like in 2.5 years time, if there's a good offer, we'll give you guys a call. You can always trade in your car for another one and things like that. So that's what we decided to do, and yeah, I'm so happy that we've done it. And the reason for that is that I feel so much safer. Not only am I driving a much nicer car, but I just know that I'm not getting into a bit of a death trap, because honestly the other one I was scared for my life to drive because I didn't know when I was going to break down, what was going to happen next. You know, I was just waiting for something to happen, which is not nice when you have to do such a long journey all the time. So yeah, that's been my car journey for the last like year. I've spent so much money on cars. I honestly thought when I was learning to drive, that was like the worst bit. And then everything else, you know, was going to make sense. I thought that I'll buy the cheap car right at the beginning and I'll have that for a couple of years, but no, that wasn't the case, and I just am so unlucky with cars. But hopefully, fingers crossed, this car is everything that we need it to be, and we're going to have it for a couple of years. And so far, I'm loving it. Like, we picked it up on the 26th of January. And yeah, obviously I put some photos on Instagram. People were asking, so I thought I would just let you guys know in a video what the hell has gone on in the past year. It's mental, literally. I did not expect this to happen when I learned to drive. But, you know, some people are really lucky and some people aren't. Obviously, I'm not very lucky when it comes to cars, but fingers crossed that's all of my bad luck out of the way, and from now onwards, you know, everything will be good. So yeah, I thought I'd explain it a little bit because it's a bit of an unusual situation, but I just thought I'd obviously fill you guys in because it's quite interesting. It's always interesting to see what other people have experienced. Obviously 1 year on, my video this time last year was so much different to what it is now, which is quite funny to watch back, but I just can't get over the fact that this is my third car since that video. So bad. But yeah, so I thought I would just make a bit of a sit down chatty video, filling you guys in. Hopefully this answers any questions that anyone did have. And obviously if you want any more information about anything, please do let me know in the comments. Also, thank you to everyone that subscribed recently. When I'm filming this, I'm only a couple of subscribers away from the 1,000 threshold, which I really need to hit by February the 20th. So if you're watching this video and haven't already subscribed, I would love it so much if you did, and really, like, it will really help me out. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. I literally didn't wear any makeup. Like, I feel like I'm a bit of a shiny mess, but I just thought I'd sit down and chat to you guys why I've got yet another car. So I hope you guys have a really lovely weekend, and I'll catch up with you really, really soon. Bye guys.